It is in the south we start, and we go to our southernmost major association, and it's my pleasure to bring in Otago Volts Plunket Shield captain Hamish Rutherford. Hamish, kia ora.
Morning, mate.
How are you?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. Not bad. Enjoying the sun here in Rotorua.
Rotorua.
Yeah, I'm coming to you from the Ibis here. I've got a lovely lake view, so I've got one more night, and I get out tomorrow midday. So I'm actually I'm looking forward to finally making the trip down south and getting to see the family.
Nice, and of course the reason you're in Rotorua and doing your 14 days of quarantine is because you're fresh from a stint with Worcester, with the Rapids and the T20 comp in the UK. You're one of the few Kiwi players who'll be starting the season fresh with some cricket. Can you tell us what it was like over there?
Yeah, it was different, obviously, with the current climate in the world. But in all honesty, it wasn't really too different. Apart from obviously playing cricket, you don't really do too much else other than train, play golf, and visit the local coffee shop. So it didn't really affect me too much in that regard. But obviously, with no crowds was a little bit different. I guess coming from New Zealand, playing domestic cricket here, we're quite used to playing with no crowds. But for the English, it's very foreign. And I must admit, once the lights come on, the sun goes down at Edgbaston, it's very, very weird. So yeah, I think
almost eerie.
Very eerie. Just quite strange. Historically, the match between the Bears and the Rapids is huge. Normally, it's a Friday night with a sort of a sellout, maybe 18,000. So I think there might have been 10 people watching the game we played them. So it was, obviously much different. But from the cricket point of view, it was still, obviously very good cricket and very enjoyable trip.
And speaking to a couple of the other skippers in preparation for this, one of the things that your captain and counterpart Cole Mcconkey from Canterbury mentioned, that one of the things that he's certainly got from his teammates is just people are feeling grateful to be able to play cricket this season. Was that a sense that you got in the UK as well, that the players were actually just grateful they were able to have some form of county season? Yeah,
definitely. I think that in New Zealand, I think we're very lucky. We missed 2 games back into the year, and if all going to plan, we're going to get a full summer in the season with some international cricket as well. So I think we're very fortunate with the way it's gone here. So certainly not the case in England. There's some heavy money being chucked around about how much everyone's losing, and some guys taking pay cuts, and some people losing their jobs within cricket. Not only cricket, but in everyday life as well. So there's definitely an element of good fortune or luck, or whatever the word you want to use, with playing in England. They played, I actually don't know, it might have been 2 months worth of cricket, but they just crammed it in. Like, some of the guys that played each format were certainly exhausted by the end, but to actually get some cricket in and I think I guess do something. They were locked down for 3 months and they were cooked. Some of those guys coming out of lockdown. So I think, like I said, they're just excited to be playing some cricket.
It's a great opportunity to be able to actually get out there. And you mentioned that with, obviously, here in New Zealand, we've had level changes. The teams have been preparing in different sort of situations. Your Otago teammates have had some games against Canterbury. They've had some internal stuff. Obviously, you've been away for a period, but what's the sense that you're getting from afar of how the Volts are going in the preseason?
Yeah, so I think our pre-seasons tend to change. We Rob and Fordo and Milo now coming in they really like to, I guess, do something different in pre-season. Obviously there's a cricket element to it, but also I guess a culture and doing something different. One year we did a rail trail. One year we went into the mountains. This year we were obviously limited with what we could do, because I think it was level 2 at the time. So we were local in Dunedin, and I think if now the boys hit the some of the rail trails, some of the mountains around town, so it did some nice jogging. I think there was one that was supposed to go up Signal Hill, and luckily over. Yeah, well, I think one of them, they were lucky they got snow overnight, so that was cancelled. So I think there was quite a few relieved boys at the time. So yeah, it's been good. As you say, we played Canterbury. It's always good to get time in the middle against opposition. Back in the day when I started it, there used to be we didn't actually start till mid-November, so there was a big lead in. You used to be able to play club cricket and get some, quality time in the middle. So it's obviously changed a lot now with starting middle of October. Yeah, October. So
Yeah.
the actual game time is, you don't get a lot before the first games. So those inter-squad games and games against Canterbury become quite important in your prep.
Certainly. And in terms of players, you mentioned obviously some bit of fitness work, some team bonding, some culture sessions, and those inter-squad games. In terms of your squad that you'll be leading this season in the Plunket Shield, how are you feeling about the guys you've got around you and the squad that Otago have got this year? Who are some players that we should be watching out for come Monday the 19th and the start of the season?
Yeah, I think we've been building quite nicely over the last couple of years. Obviously, we got a few new faces last season. We got one this year in Jared McConchie, who's come down from Central. So it'll be exciting to have a new bowler around. I guess the big question mark's Dean Foxcroft. He's still stuck in South Africa. So, we'll have to see how that goes. He's obviously a big loss for us in all formats last year. He was, well, I can't remember if he was player of the year or not, but he was certainly up there.
He was certainly in the mix with Michael
performances. Sorry, Rip was player of the year. Sorry, so I missed that. Sorry, Rip. But Dean's a big player for us, so that's a big loss. But it just creates another opportunity for somebody else. So I think a player to watch this season or the future is probably Nathan Smith. He's been around actually quite a few years now. He's started when I think he was 16, still in school or something, but feels like he's been around forever. So obviously he's gained some experience, and I think the time's probably right now for him to really put his hand up. He obviously played some A cricket last year, which he went well in. So we'll see how he goes this year.
So you mentioned that's a real kind of, I guess, a hallmark of your bowling attack, that two of the sort of senior leaders are two very young guys, and Jacob Duffy and Nathan Smith, but it feels like they've been around the first class scene in New Zealand now for years.
Yeah, I was thinking about it before when I was reading your questions. I mean, myself and Anna are the only guys over 30, so it makes me feel rather old in the changing room at the minute. But like you said there,
what about Broomy?
Broomy. Yeah, sorry, Broomy. Yeah. White ball specialist now, Broomy. Apologies, Neil. It's, Jake's been around forever, but I actually don't know. I think he's only 26. So it's quite weird when you think about it. That experience he has and leads our bowling attack. He's been quite remarkable the last couple of seasons with his performances. So hopefully he can continue that this season as well.
Certainly. And I mean, you mentioned that you feel like you've been building nicely. I mean, the Volts have had a couple of finals appearances in white ball cricket and one-day cricket and T20 cricket. The Plunket Shield format, the first class format, has been a bit of a challenge over the last couple of seasons. Do you feel like you are heading in the right direction, though, with your red ball cricket?
Yeah, certainly. I think, you're right. We've, I guess, haven't really quite found our method in, years back about 4-day cricket and how we go about it. And, and on top of that, like I said, we've got a young shed. I think maybe going into last year, I think only a couple of people had played more than 20 games. So I think you add that into the mix, like that's, it's not a lot of cricket for the guys. So last year we finished third before we were cut short with those last 2 games. But I think that was a really good step in the right direction, as I said. So hopefully we can build on that, make a few tweaks here and there, and put in some good performances and see where we finish come April.
Certainly, and just to kind of on those guys in the squad, it looks like it's a young shed. It's a shed that likes each other's company. It seems like a good team environment. I mean, just as observing on social media, you seem like some of the guys love, commenting on each other and seeing what's going on. And a few characters such as Michael Ray and Matt Bacon seem to be quite big characters on social media. Does that sort of mirror the dressing room kind of personas as well?
Yeah, obviously being in Dunedin, it's a lot smaller than some of the other centres around the country. So we tend to spend, I'm not saying the other teams don't, but we tend to spend a lot of time together because we all live, pretty close to each other. So away from the ground, we socialise. There's a lot of golfers now, so we're lucky enough to be looked after at Balmacewen Golf Course. So we tend to play as much golf as possible. We have a nice sort of lefties righties comp going, which is always eventful when we tend to play. Yeah, so the lefties are looking nice this year, so I'm looking forward to that. But unfortunately, Michael Ray's gone away from his vlogging days, which, if anyone remembered, that was a highlight of, I think, 2 years ago, the winter. So I think everyone in New Zealand cricket, everyone around the circuit's been up on him about getting another one going, but he hasn't quite featured. You mentioned there Matthew Bacon. He obviously tends to gram a lot of food. He's a big foodie, food and coffee. So if anyone wanted to follow him, they'll certainly see the spots we hit during the summer. And then obviously Finney's our number one social media star with his photography business. Yeah. So it's obviously really good following that and being able to get a few images here and there for my wallpaper.
Nice. You mentioned obviously the different characters within the group. You've been around just looking at your own career, first class cricket with the Volts since back in 2008. What can you tell me, Ruds, about your own memories of coming into first class cricket and just sort of how you've seen it change in the Plunket Shield competition? Obviously, it wasn't even called the Plunket Shield when you debuted at the time. What are those memories like for you?
Challenging memories. In the Red Bull stuff, I took a while to, I guess, get a gauge on it and understand how my game would look in it. I think I played a few games in my first season, then I might not have played for another 2.5 years or something. I don't know the exact time frames, but it was something like that. I got a golden in my first game, and then I think I went to Queen's Park and got a duck. And then I still remember my first run. I had a straight drive for 2 off Leighton Burt, which I couldn't have been more happy about, because that was a tough 10 days sitting on no runs. But
certainly,
it's definitely changed. I think back then there weren't a lot of outright wins, a lot of draws. Certainly, I guess, flatter wickets, and with that, it was obviously very difficult to win. I think the winner of the Plunket Shield that year, I'm not sure who it was, but they might have only won 2 or 3 games. So if you look now, there's a lot more victories. There's a lot more 3-day results. I don't know where you want to point your finger to that, but as a batter, I certainly know where I'd point my finger. But yeah, it certainly changed. There's a different sort of outlook on the 4-day game, I suppose. Everyone's looking to push for a result, however that might look. But I think if you look at domestic cricket on a whole in each format, we're sitting pretty. I think it's a very strong competition. I'm not saying it wasn't strong back then, but I think there's a lot more depth around. Some of the attacks, some of the batting lineups you might come across in the domestic game are certainly, they're good enough for around the world. Having seen a little bit of, English domestic cricket, I think we're miles ahead. Not miles ahead, it's probably a bit harsh, but we're certainly ahead in some aspects. Yeah,
and you are. I was just going to say that you've been lucky enough to represent, as well as obviously Otago in New Zealand, but a couple of different counties. You've seen cricket in a few different locations, obviously, and then also represented New Zealand at the highest level in Test cricket. So you've seen a bit of first class cricket, despite, as you say, that slightly tough start to begin with. And what does it mean as a format to you personally, and the Plunket Shield as a competition?
Well, look, I mean, obviously, I haven't lifted what is now the Plunket Shield or whatever it was back when I started. It's certainly, I guess, a goal of mine.
The State Shield back then.
State Shield, yeah. So yeah, I mean, like you said earlier, we haven't had a lot of success in the longest format. So, actually, I think the last time Otago won, I'm sure it's 87 when they went back to back, and that was when my father played. So that's how long ago it was, because he is ancient now. It means a lot. It's obviously the hardest format to win. It's 8 games, so it's if I'm sure, I don't know the feeling, but I'm sure if you're sitting at the end of the season in your whites and you've got a shield in the middle of the shed with a beer in your hand, I think that must be pretty rewarding, because there's obviously a lot of hard work that goes into into winning that comp.
Certainly, I just had a quick look at the season. So you made your debut against ND, and ND were the eventual champions that season. So you came up against the best to start with.
Yeah, I still vividly remember it. Obviously, I got out to Trent, and I think it might have been his first game for ND as well. And in age groups, he used to get me out quite a lot. So I didn't have a great feeling in my stomach. I think I actually said to somebody, "Oh dear." And I think I almost just walked off before the ball was even bowled, which is not a great mindset to be in.
No, I see. That is a tough place to start. And in terms of obviously how things have changed since that time, you've represented Otago over 50 times. I've got just actually a couple of quick fire ones to finish for you, Ruds, before I let you go and make the most of the last couple of days of quarantine before you go and see your young whānau. I wanted to ask you firstly, what is your favourite first class venue to play at?
So I got two. Obviously the Uni Oval, and I also really enjoy Queen's Park in Invercargill.
A proud Southern man.
Which might surprise a few people. But it's a great place to go to.
Otago, a few good coffee spots tucked away there as well.
And fresh fish.
Oh, very nice. It's a great option. And then in terms of, you mentioned Trent giving you some trouble early on. Who's the toughest bowler you've ever faced in first class cricket?
The toughest bowler would be Darren Stevens with a duke in his hand. He will give you sleepless nights.
Opening is a very tough job. Would you say it's the toughest job in cricket?
No, I wouldn't. I think bowling in Dubai would be certainly up there. Having seen some of the guys toil over there, I don't quite know if I'd want to put my rig through that, and I don't know if it would quite turn out that well for my rig. So no, I think opening can be, but it's also it can be the most rewarding as well.
And just finally, before I let you go, the player that you most enjoy, it could be a teammate or it could be an opponent, the player you most enjoy watching on the first class scene.
Actually, sort of a strange one. I actually really enjoy Matthew Hayden. I know he's not playing, but he's quite high on my Google search list. Always growing up enjoyed
deep in Roe Blinder.
I enjoyed watching him. And then a lot of his theories, I've listened to a couple of podcasts on him, and I enjoy that. I guess a current player, I quite like watching Aaron Finch go about his white ball game. So those two probably up there at the minute.
Nice. Hamish, Rutherford, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Alrighty, now to Rangiora we go, into Canterbury country. It is my pleasure to bring in Canterbury Plunket Shield skipper Cole Mcconkey. Cole, good morning to you.
Morning, Ben. Thanks for having us.
No worries at all, Cole. And firstly, I've caught you in the midst of a pre-season internal squad game, but I also understand that it's been a busy pre-season, and congratulations are in order. You're a newly wedded man.
Yeah, tied the knot on the weekend, which was nice to get that over the line. We had a wee delay during the first lockdown, so it was nice to get it done before the season starts.
Nice, using the traditional cricketers' windows of April and September.
Yes, most certainly am. So it's been a couple of us boys tied the knot in September, and there's a couple in April as well. So it's going to be a busy wee wedding season for the Cantab boys.
Nice, an exciting time to be in Canterbury, and you mentioned an exciting time. You're in the real countdown mode now for the season. How is your squad feeling leading them into a new campaign?
Yeah, really good. I think we're just about to kick off day 3 of a internal game down here. Out at Rangiora, which has been great, and it's been a really good pre-season altogether. Having, I suppose, everyone here in Christchurch has been a real bonus for us, and I think everyone's just chomping at the bit to get out there and play some cricket.
That's exciting to hear, and obviously it's a season with a slight difference, and it's meant a pre-season with a bit difference, an early finish to the season last year, and you mentioned a winter with everyone at home, and you've also had a couple of new faces around the squad, and also seen probably a lot more of your contracted BLACKCAPS than perhaps you're used to over the pre-season in the winter. How has that been, having the early finish and then having the kind of changes and things heading into this season?
Yeah, I think we've tried to view it as a real bonus here for us. We've had the full winter here with everyone, the BLACKCAPS boys, some new faces integrating into the squad, which has been great. And I think not only from a cricketing standpoint, but also a social standpoint, having everyone here, connecting together, tough running sessions in the nets has been, a real positive for us. So I think, it's been a really good pre-season. But as I say, pre-season's pre-season. I think everyone's, really gearing up and chomping to get into some games.
I can imagine, and just looking at those games, obviously the Plunket Shield is split into two chunks. We've got the half before Christmas and a half towards the back end of the New Zealand summer. But looking at your first half of that Shield season, you've got a couple of fixtures at home, one at Hagley Oval and one in Rangiora, where you're having your trial game at the moment. A pretty stern test, though, to start with. Back-to-back games against the defending champs. How are you guys feeling about firstly heading up to the Basin Reserve and then welcoming the Firebirds back to Hagley?
Really looking forward to it. I think, we always have some really good tussles with Wellington the last couple of years. We've had some really great games with them up at the Basin, but also down here. So really looking forward to sort of getting into that. And I think with the split competition, it's always key to get off to a good start in that first half of the competition. So then come end of February, start of March, you're in the box position and have teams chasing you.
And you mentioned those tussles with Wellington. It was probably one of the highlights of the season last year. Your guys' game against the Firebirds up at the Basin Reserve. Devon Conway made a 300, but Tom Latham made a truckload of runs as well. And there were guys in your team making different contributions at different times. But unfortunately, obviously, Wellington did get over the line for you guys. But you mentioned that's a real momentum shift in the season, and that is those kind of important battles, and that's what sort of 4-day cricket's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, most certainly is. And I mean, that game was, it was a crazy game for the way that, Devon played that day. I mean, that was an incredible knock. And then Tom the next day to go out and also play another incredible knock. And, it was a great game of cricket. It was a fantastic surface and a game that could have gone either way going into that fourth day. So, hopefully we have many more of those coming up and hopefully a few wins to start the season against these boys.
Certainly, and just looking at your squad, you've mentioned you've got an internal game at the moment. You've also had the chance to play your southern mates Otago in the last sort of week or so to get prepared for the season. Look at your own squad. You've got some different players in there in terms of someone like a Daryl Mitchell coming actually from outside the region, but you've got some local talent as well. You've got a guy like Jack Boyle doing some stuff with the winter squads over the winter as well. How is your squad feeling? Any players particularly you think we should be watching out for in these early rounds?
Yeah, certainly. Well, I think just starting with Daryl, I mean, Daryl's been a great acquisition for us. He's brought a lot to our squad, the experience that he has, the type of player that he is, just the hard working mentality that he brings. He's brought a lot to our squad, and it's certainly rubbed off a lot of our younger guys. I think, you mentioned the likes of Jack Boyle. He's had a winter in the winter squad, working really hard, and game looks like it's gone to another level. And then we've had a wee chunk of cricket already, and it's great to see batters like Chad Bowers, Leo Carter, Kenny McClure. They've all put up some big numbers already this season. So it's an exciting time. There's going to be plenty of competition come that first round for the team sheet. Brilliant.
And in terms of who gets the job of picking that team sheet, obviously yourself as skipper this year, but you've got a new man in but an old man, a familiar man in the head coach's role. Probably won't like me calling him an old man, although the beard over lockdown did suggest otherwise. How has it been having Fultz come in as head coach?
Yeah, Fultz has been absolutely brilliant. He's been on board for just over a couple of months now. A proud Canterburyan like him. He knows the game of cricket extremely well, and he's brought some really good content to the group. I think it's just started with a lot of the young guys, but even the senior guys on the side, and he's bringing a lot, brings a different perspective to the game, and it's sort of exciting to take that forward into the season.
Nice. And your own game, Cole, how are you feeling about how you've been going over the winter? Obviously, a leadership role for a couple of seasons now for Canterbury, and providing your all-round skills. You've had some opportunities with New Zealand Day in the last couple of seasons as well. How have you been feeling heading into this season?
Yeah, feel really good. I think I had a good winter of training and sort of knuckled down, put my head down, and worked on a few areas in my game. So. Just like the rest of the squad, just looking forward to implementing that into some games and moving that forward. I think by the time season comes around, we'll all be ready to, push forward and show what we've been working on during the off season.
And working obviously towards that ultimate goal, which is the Plunket Shield title. But just to kind of take you back a bit, Cole, in terms of your own Plunket Shield experiences, obviously you've been part of some successful Canterbury squads, and I just want to kind of ask you about what the Plunket Shield as a competition means to you, and playing first class cricket for Canterbury means to you, and the red ball form of the game. Where does it stand for you?
Plunket Shield's still the absolute pinnacle for me, Ben. I think, growing up watching the successful Canterbury sides, watching a lot of Test cricket as a young fella, that for me is the pinnacle of the game. And I think, being a part of a few successful Plunket Shield campaigns for Canterbury, you sort of get a grasp of what it takes to win a successful campaign. It's not just one little session of cricket or one day of cricket. It's a combination of probably 30 good days of cricket that come together. And to lift that Plunket Shield at the end of that, it takes a full squad, full squad effort and a lot of good pieces of cricket that goes into that. So I think, kicking off with that first game against Wellington is very important, but it's also very important to play, good quality cricket for a long period, and you see the rewards from there.
So you mentioned it does seem to be a real key point of successful campaigns. A lot of different guys standing up. I just wanted to take you back as well. One last sort of memory there of your own Canterbury debut, and your kind of memory from taking you back to 2012. Do you remember who you debuted against and much from that game?
Yeah, I debuted against Otago down at University Oval. Very fortunate to get my first Canterbury hat from Gary Stead, who was another Rickerton teammate of mine. Remember it vividly, and I just remember going out to bat that first day, and I was nervous as anything. I think we had Ian Butler coming in from one end and Mark Craig from the other end, and there's a few voices around the bat getting stuck into me. But it was a great experience, and one that I'll never forget.
Do you remember, just a couple of quick quiz questions about that game, do you remember who else made their debut for Canterbury that day, and who made their debut in the opposition for Otago?
Well, I certainly know Will Williams made his debut that day for Canterbury, so it was nice to share that with him. And from the Otago side, I think it might have been Blair Soper that made his debut.
You're spot on. You've got a good memory, Cole. That's exactly right. And in terms of the actual details of that game, you mentioned Gary Stead giving you your cap, but I was having a look at the scorecard, and a pretty interesting game. Canterbury made two scores of about 250, in which Peter Fulton managed 100 in each innings. What pitch was he betting on?
Yeah, something very different to us. I thought, I've watched Fultz for a long time as, a Canterbury legend, and to go out there and debut game and watch him go about his work and spend a little bit of time with him in the middle was awesome. He was certainly batting on a different wicket to the rest of us.
And Cole, thanks again for joining us. I've just got three quick fire ones for you to finish. The first one being, what's your favourite first class venue to play cricket at?
I'm a little bit biased, but it would have to be Hagley Oval.
Nice. And in terms of the bowler that you found most challenging in your first class career so far?
I'd have to say Hamish Bennett on a spicy Basin wicket.
Nice. And in terms of, it could be a teammate, it could be someone that you enjoy looking at just from the viewing room. Who's a player that you enjoy seeing in the first class scene?
It's tough to nail down. I just really enjoy seeing, mates for Canterbury succeeding, and, the hard work that goes behind it, and then seeing them have the success out in the middle. So it's tough to, put the nail on the head with one there.
Fair enough. It's a good option. Thank you very much, Cole. Really appreciate you joining me this morning.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Thanks for having us.
All right, it's to sunny Hawke's Bay we go, and it's my pleasure to be joined by Central Stags Plunket Shield captain Greg Hay. Greg, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Ben.
Central Districts, you're spread out across a wide area of the country, covering 2 islands, in fact. How has the pre-season been for the Stags? Have you managed to get much of a chance to actually prep together?
This was our second week together. We had a pre-season camp a fortnight ago where we came in and sort of had our first time together, did some planning work and some fitness work and a bit of net practice. So yeah, it is a challenge, but we've got a pretty good core of guys in Napier now. Sort of, there's probably a good 10 of us in Napier, so it's quite a base. And then obviously it's good to see the guys come in from the other regions when we have our camps.
Indeed, and in terms of that prep, you've got a couple of different faces in the side, but also some very familiar ones, and also a unique pre-season potentially where, because of the COVID times that we're in, you've had a lot of people who are at home, no guys away overseas or doing other things during winter. What's that been like as a sort of different point of difference for this season?
Yeah, certainly it's been different for the guys that normally go overseas. I'm one of those guys that I normally go over to England, so it's been a bit different to have an actual off season as such, rather than just coming back and having a couple of weeks of training and getting back into it. So no, it's been a bit different, bit more time in the indoor centre, which can be a bit tedious at times, but no, I think everyone's after that time away is just rearing to get back out there and get stuck into it.
Certainly, and you mentioned in terms of getting stuck into it, also a point of kind of difference of this season is because of the shape of how our summer's looking for New Zealand and the time the international cricket is falling in. You're going to have you're going to have all your BLACKCAPS contracted players available as well. So that's something slightly different in terms of getting stuck in. Is it exciting to have guys like Ross back in the mix, and someone like, obviously, Ajaz has moved to that centrally contracted list this year, and Youngie as well? Good to have them all available and all part of the squad as you get ready for the season.
Yeah, it is. Yep, Ross is coming down this week to join us for a week for some training before the first game, and it's always good to have him involved. And then obviously Youngie and Ajaz we've seen a lot of, but we're hopeful that they can really kick on, and we won't see them as much as what we really hope for. But no, it's great to have them involved, and I think it's good for the competition. I mean, it's not just us with Roscoe, but every team is going to be pretty strong. So this first section of the Plunket Shield is going to be some really strong sides, and that's exciting. I think it makes for good cricket, and it really makes for those guys trying to push themselves to the next level to put performances in against the top guys around the country. So it's going to be an exciting first 4 rounds, that's for sure.
Certainly, and you mentioned that that's been a bit of a challenge for the Stags in a few of the recent seasons, particularly with more New Zealand A cricket being played. You've had challenges with injury, you've had challenges with just players, as you say, getting those opportunities at the next level, which is a really positive thing for the major association, but also potentially a challenge for the likes of yourself as skipper, managing players, but also coaching staff as well, having 11 players to pick from, Greg.
Yeah, it's certainly been a challenge over the last couple of years. Firstly, with injuries, I think, our bowling stocks at the start of the season have always always an exciting prospect looking at our stack of fast bowlers, the talent that we've got there. But unfortunately, the amount of times we've had them all on the park at the same time could probably count on one hand. So it is challenging, and it is also with the New Zealand A program. We've got a lot of guys in that sort of fringe black cap sort of New Zealand A setup. So that creates exciting opportunities for the guys that are coming through. Some guys have been exposed last season and the season before, and those guys are going to get opportunities again, I think, this season, especially when that New Zealand A sort of stuff kicks in, I think, during that 4 trophy round. So it's exciting for the whole squad, really, to have our full strength side at the start of the comp, and then when we move into that 4 trophy, the guys in the wider squad know that there's going to be opportunities there. So I think there's a lot to look forward to for everyone involved.
Certainly, and in particular, just casting your eye down that list ahead of the season, if you were kind of from the outside looking in, who would you be sort of noting down as, and from what you've also seen in the preseason, players to watch for the punters out there and heading into this Plunket Shield first couple of rounds?
For the Plunket Shield, I'd say looking for some breakout performances from sort of a lot of those guys. I think Dane Cleaver is ready to really step up another gear. He's had a really good winter's training, and he's very focused and determined. And a guy like Will Young, was right there, and then sort of had to have shoulder surgery, so he pretty much missed most of last season. So he's been training hard, and he's just cannot wait to get out there and prove himself and put in some big performances. So those two would be key ones to look out for. And then at the other end of probably at the squad, the new guys that'll get opportunities. There's a couple of new guys on our contract list. Ray Toole is a guy, left armour, who had a couple of opportunities last year. It sort of came a bit from nowhere, and no one knew too much about him. He actually came over from Australia. He's been in Palmerston North for a couple of years at Massey, and he got his opportunity and performed really well for us. So he's a skillful left armour who's been training well, and so we're looking for him to take another step forward. And Bailey Wiggins is our other new contracted player who had a rip-roaring start to his career in the Ford Trophy with 100 and close to 196 in his first couple of games. So we're looking for him, especially in the white ball stuff, to really continue that form.
Exciting stuff. And you mentioned the likes of Dane and Will. I mean, Dane's that sort of bore fruit last year with the opportunities he got for New Zealand Day, and also just making big runs for CD as well. Is that pretty exciting to see as captain and as someone who's been around the squad for a while, to see a guy like that develop over time and take those opportunities?
Yeah, I think we've all known the talent that he's got. So it's really good to see him take that step forward and be consistent, and probably just really commit himself to getting the most out of his talent, because he's a phenomenal player, and we really think that he's got a future at a higher level. So really excited to see him keep moving forward and pushing for those higher honours.
I see. And just in terms of your own game, Greg, you had a couple of very consistent seasons in terms of first-class cricket the last few years for the Stags. And I was just giving a look at a few numbers, just charting in behind Jamie Howe as well, pipping nearly there for second on the CD all-time first-class run scoring list. How are you feeling about your own game coming into the season?
Obviously, been a couple of good seasons, so feeling pretty good. Obviously, with the winter off, it's a bit different than playing all year round, but looking forward to getting out there. I think my role is just to sort of be that stable presence at the top of the order and try and set a platform for all these talented guys and dynamic players that we got through the middle order. So it's a pretty simple game plan for me, just to go out there and try and sort of blunt the new ball and try and set up for the team. So it's pretty clear what my role is. So I don't have to concentrate on too many different things. Just go out there and try and do that year in, year out. So, and hopefully, I can put Jamie this year for second. But I don't know if anyone's catching Skippy for a while. He's a long way.
He's got a lot of runs. There's a lot. I was looking at that. The first and second is a bit of a jump on the podium there.
Yeah. Skippy is a bit of a legend. So I don't know who might be. It'll take some catching, that's for sure.
Yeah, certainly. I would stack them up for sure. In terms of that first, and you mentioned guys like Jamie and Matthew Sinclair, Skippy. In terms of your own memories, Greg, first when you came into the Stags side, it's a question I've asked all the captains. What are your memories of coming into first-class cricket, and can you remember the details of your first game at that level?
Sure can. Yeah, I can remember my first game at the Basin against Wellington.
Yeah, I mean, just look at that, you're bang on, and just I had a look through that scorecard, and I mean, what was it like heading to the Basin and sort of seeing on the team sheet? I mean, guys, some pretty big names in New Zealand cricket at the time, including one of the biggest of all, Stephen Fleming, and the opposition. And it's a pretty spicy bowling attack led by Ian O'Brien and Mark Gillespie. What was that like as a prospect coming in as a young batsman?
It was pretty overwhelming, really, to get that as your first game. I remember I was fielding it square leg at the start of the game with Fleming batting, and all I was thinking is just don't drop him. But sort of what all the guys on debut go through, but to have that New Zealand captain there was even a bit more intimidating than usual. But no, it was good. Obviously, yeah, the guys you mentioned that we were playing with as well in our team, we had the guys like Jamie and Skip in the batting order, and Mike Mason, Lance Hamilton, got a lot of experienced players around. So it was and being at the Basin as well. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better place to make your debut. So yeah, it was certainly a memorable week, that's for sure.
Certainly, and just in terms of your own performance, you mentioned standing at square leg, feeling pretty nervous. But your first go in first class cricket with the bat, you managed to make 98 not out. So you must have found your feet at some stage though at the Basin.
Yeah, yep, no, yeah, worked out all right. I still remember that. It's our high performance director Lance Hamilton was actually at the other end and nicked off when I was on 8 not out. So I certainly remind that at least a couple of times a season. So never let him forget that one.
Just one to drop into the review at the end of the season.
Yeah.
In terms of from there, obviously that was back in 2006, and now leading the side. What personally to you, Greg, does playing first class cricket mean? And also you've now been lucky enough to be part of sides that have actually won the competition. I was speaking to Hamish Rutherford yesterday, and he was talking about how much first class cricket means to him. He hasn't been able to win the competition himself yet, but you've been lucky enough to actually get hold of that shield a couple of times now. What does that actually mean to you?
Yeah, well, for me, it's the as a domestic cricketer, it's the pinnacle of domestic cricket. I think we all, when you're growing up or whatever, you talk about first class cricketers, or this guy's a first class cricketer, and people sort of tend to forget that that's first class cricket is actually the 4-day cricket. 1-day cricket, you're playing for the Stags or playing for the Aces or whoever. That's one thing, but that doesn't actually make you a first class cricketer. A first class cricketer is 4-day cricket. So, and it's like the guys that play Test cricket. It's like that's the pinnacle form of the game, and it's really that's how you test yourself as a cricketer. I think over 4 days, so that concentration and to be able to get in the battle and perform under fatigue. That's the real challenge as a cricketer, and that feeling after winning a game after 4 days of toil, I think there's nothing better than that. And then to take that to another level, to win the Plunket Shield with all its history, takes a lot of work over, well, now it's 8 games, but it was 10 games. 4-day games is a lot of hard work, and especially for the bowlers that put their bodies through to come away with the results, pretty special, and you never forget that. It's still the ultimate in my eyes.
Certainly, and just kind of picking up on that, you mentioned obviously the 4 days toil. In terms of venues to do that toil at, what is your favourite first class venue that you've been lucky enough to play at?
I'd probably have to say the Basin, probably for that debut and just the history of New Zealand cricket there, and just a true quintessential cricket ground with the history. Can't go past the Basin, but obviously I'll throw in Saxon Oval as well as my home ground.
Yeah, nice, and hopefully maybe some Hawke Cup return there maybe next year as well, and next season, sorry, as well. And then in terms of the follow-up question to that, the toughest bowler you've ever faced in your first class career?
I'd go one from the start of my career. I'd say Andre Adams. He was always very difficult, hit the seam, and had a pretty quick bumper as well, and was pretty aggressive, shall we say, especially against the new boys on the block.
Some pretty fiery confrontations between the Aces and the Stags with Dre coming steaming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of last one, just wrapping up, it could be someone you've been lucky to play with in the Stags cap or with New Zealand A, or it could be someone that you've played against. Who's the player that you really enjoy watching, just from a cricketing sense?
I'll go with, as mentioned, I'll go with Matthew Sinclair. When he was going, there's probably no one better to watch. And yeah, true legend of CD. So I'll go with Skippy.
It sounds like a perfect CD note to end on. Greg, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Cheers, Ben.
Alrighty, to the capital we go now, to Whanganui Atara, and we are joined by Wellington Firebirds Plunket Shield captain, Michael Bracewell. Kia ora, Michael, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you, Ben. How are you?
Yeah, not bad at all, thanks, mate. Thank you very much, firstly, for joining us. I understand you've got a team inter-squad game coming up. How has the preseason been going as we prepare for the Plunket Shield?
Yeah, it's been going really well, actually. We had a 2-day game last week and then another 2-day fixture tomorrow. So it's been great to get out on the basin with the refurbished outfield and play some cricket again.
Fantastic. And you mentioned it's had a full refurbish over the winter. I saw some photos of a lot of sand going down and some quite extensive works, but you've been able to get out there and have some good sessions both in the nets and in the middle? Yeah,
there's a few heavy legs there early on. It felt like you're running in Waikanae Beach there for a little bit, but it's definitely hardened up now and ready to go for the start of the season.
Nice. And in terms of other stuff that's been going on, you mentioned Waikanae Beach, but you have been also around Wellington, not just training at the basin. I saw some video of the Mount Vic burn. For people who might not be familiar with, firstly, Mount Vic, but also the Mount Vic burn. Can you tell us what the wider Wellington Firebirds squad went through a week or so ago?
Yeah, so it's been going on for sort of 4 or 5 years now, I think. You start off in the Exodus gym on the spin bikes in there, and you do 20 Ks as quickly as you can, obviously, and then you get your running shoes on and you're straight to the top of Mount Vic as quickly as you can to finish. So, it's a pretty brutal day, to be honest, but yeah, happy to see the back of it.
I can imagine, but a pretty good exercise, called quite literally an exercise, but a good opportunity for everyone to get together and do kind of a big first challenge of the season.
Yeah, it's all about guys bonding together at the top, I think. It's pretty special being up at the view, looking over Wellington and realising what we're representing when we go out to play for the Firebirds, and then obviously having that shared experience of being in a pretty dark place there for a while also brings the group together.
Fantastic. And can you tell us who did actually make it up to the top first this year?
Andrew Fletcher won it this year. He put a lot of work in this winter, so it was awesome to see him get up there and show off the work that he's been doing.
The rangy opener enjoying the view of Eastbourne, I'm sure.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
Nice. And in terms of, you mentioned obviously a lot what that does for having that shared experience for the wider group, and talking about Cricket Wellington as a whole. I understand as well you've had a culture session, not just with Firebirds players, but actually for everyone involved in cricket in Wellington recently, including obviously your fellow representative team, the Blaze, but then everyone from turf staff to community cricket staff to Cricket Wellington staff members as well, from people from the whole cricket community. How's that been going?
Yeah, it's certainly not something that I've never been a part of before. Getting everyone from the community environment and cricket in Wellington together to talk about the things that they found difficult and also the things that they're most proud of was pretty special. And then there were a few past players there as well. So to get a chance to talk to a person like Sarah Hill and see how much she had loved playing for Wellington first of all, but then the pride that she gets watching the players take the field is pretty special, and it just brings the whole group together, really.
That's fantastic. And I know that's something that Wellington's been quite big on the last few seasons, even down to, for example, in the Basin Reserve change rooms down underneath, having the honours boards getting refreshed. Ryan doing a lot of hard work with having, both the Blaze and the Firebirds players up there. Even little things like that, has that been great to kind of recognise both those people all those people who have represented Wellington and kind of put a lot of effort into representing the region?
Yeah, it does. It sort of just, I guess it gives a little bit more meaning to playing for Wellington, playing for the Firebirds and Blaze, when you look up and you can see the amount of runs and wickets that have been taken for the province. It sort of makes you realise that you're playing for more than just yourself. So getting out there and trying to do the province proud and all the people that have been before you is pretty big for the club, and it's something that we'll continue to work on as well. Fantastic.
And that kind of leads me on, I guess, to the next part of our chat as you go into the season and you come into Plunket Shield cricket, which is coming at us pretty quickly as defending champions as well. Obviously, a shortened competition last year because of COVID. There are now changes to some of the conditions of the tournament and the season because of COVID this year. How are you feeling coming into the season as defending champs, holding that shield?
Yeah, I think we're just grateful to be able to play cricket, first of all. there was a time there through lockdown and things that this upcoming season was probably pretty uncertain. So to be able to say that we're going to be playing a game in a couple of weeks with our fingers crossed is pretty special. So yeah, we're just really, I think that's one thing that COVID has sort of brought us, is a little bit of perspective as players. We're so lucky to be able to do what we're doing, and then to defending champions, it's something that, you know, that every team's going to be coming after you and trying to play their best cricket against us. So we've just got to try and stick to the things that we've done well previously. And we've always enjoyed playing at the Basin. So to kick our campaign off at home is something that we look forward to. And we've had a lot of practice in the pre-season at the Basin and getting used to the wickets. So hopefully we can get the campaign off well.
And you mentioned that you've sort of taken my next question, which is great makes an easy segue, but you have got 3 out of the first 4 rounds at home at the Basin, as you mentioned. A big part of your campaign last season was a really strong start to the season, getting a couple of early wins under the belt to start things off. What does that mean to the team in terms of your planning and preparation to know that for first 4 rounds you've got 3 good cracks at the Basin?
Yeah, I think the Basin really suits our team quite nicely. We've got 4 fast bowlers who like to run in and hit the wicket hard. So they generally take a few wickets at the Basin, and then I think a few of the touring teams come in and see it's a bit green and see there's big nasty fasties running in, and we can get on top of them early. So that's worked for a while for us in the past, but doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen this year. So we need to make sure that we stick to those simple things that we do well.
And you mentioned that obviously this year is potentially slightly different, COVID aside, but one of the reasons is things are going to be slightly different is there will be more BLACKCAPS contracted players available for the early rounds of the Plunket Shield, those that aren't featuring in overseas competitions. And your one away game to start the season is down in Christchurch at Hagley Oval against Canterbury, and they obviously will potentially, fitness allowing, have their BLACKCAPS contracted players available, and they've acquired Daryl Mitchell over the winter. In terms of a test is going away, a pretty stern one for you guys in that front half of the season. Yeah,
we have 2 games early against Canterbury, and they've got a great squad with a lot of talented players and BLACKCAPS, as you say. So it is always, I think, with the BLACKCAPS being back, it's going to be a really strong competition, and that's what we're after as domestic players, is playing the highest level domestically, and obviously trying to put your name up for higher honours. So the more chances we can get to play against those BLACKCAPS players, the better, I think, so we can sort of give ourselves a chance to express our skills.
Fantastic. And talking about expressing those skills, your squad this year has got some very familiar faces for followers of Wellington cricket and domestic cricket more widely. You've added, in terms of people from outside the region, Finn Allen's come in. How has Finn come into the group, and in terms of players yourself that you've been kind of keeping an eye on, who's looking exciting coming into the season?
Yeah, Finn's looking really good. He's an exciting guy, and he's got a bit of flair about him. So we're just going to hopefully just let him go about his business. I think he was a little bit shocked at the Mount Vic burn, but it's a great initiation for a guy like that. And then another guy, Andrew Fletcher, I mentioned earlier, has put a lot of hard work in the winter, and I'd say he's sort of a player to watch this season because of the sheer amount of work that he's put in.
Fantastic, and obviously shot to sort of a few people's radars a couple of seasons ago in his first Wellington season with his fantastic work in the Ford Trophy, of course.
Yeah, he did. He had one of the best. Well, I think it was a record-setting
one day
campaign. Yeah, so he's definitely been there and done that, and I think last year didn't go as well as he would have liked. So I know he's put a lot of work in to get back to where he knows he can play.
Fantastic. And in terms of just something different for Wellington this year, I think I was just having a quick scan. Obviously, Jen Patel, because of England commitments last year, didn't end up actually playing for the Firebirds, and of course retired from Wellington cricket. But the first time you guys Wellington side heads into a first-class season without Jen Patel in the squad mix somewhere for the first time since 1999-2000 season. So in terms of change of the guard there, and obviously you picked up a few spinning overs yourself, but a big shift there not having Jeets around the group.
Yeah, it is. I think when you lose the guys, that's has that much experience. You can't just have one person step up and take their shoes. And obviously, I'm trying to roll my arm over now, but I'm no way expecting to be Jeetan Patel first season out. So I think that's where the power is in the group, to everyone to step up and give that little bit more. We've got a lot of experience in our group now, so we'll be relying on those guys to step up and fill that pretty big void that Jeets leaves behind.
It's exciting times in that regard for opportunities for different guys. And you mentioned yourself, you ended up last season certainly bowling a few more overs. I mean, traditionally, obviously, been known more widely as a batsman. You're 4 runs short of 1,000 first-class runs for Wellington, but you also secured your first ever first-class 5-wicket bag late in the season. Can you tell me a bit more about the bowling and how that's going and how you're feeling ahead of the season generally?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to get out there. I have put a lot of work in this winter, in particular, into my bowling. It's something that it sort of reinvigorated me a little bit at the end of last season, giving myself something new to work on and focus on, really. So batting's obviously my number one still, and I'm first and foremost a batter in the side. But it's nice to be able to contribute to the team in other ways and give myself a few more options with the bowling.
Fantastic. And in terms of first-class cricket, as you mentioned, you've traditionally been known as a batsman. Just wanted to kind of talk about first-class cricket on the Plunket Shield as a sort of wider question. And obviously, you started your career down in Otago before coming up to Wellington. I wanted to kind of pick your brains and take you back actually to that time when you made your first-class debut back in 2011 for Otago. And try and sort of see what you remember from that game. I went a quick scour through the scorecard to see what actually happened between the Volts and the Stags in that game. Can you tell me what you firstly remember from that game and potentially the 2 other players who made their first-class debuts in that fixture?
First of all, I think the 2 people who made their debut, Mark Craig was one.
Yep, bingo.
Was the other one from CD?
Yeah, the other one was from CD.
Was it
a bowler?
Evan Small?
You're spot on. Good recollection.
Yeah, so we ended up winning that game. I think we bowled them out on the last day, and it was pretty cool because making my debut with Mark Craig was pretty special. And then I'm pretty sure he got a couple of wickets towards the end there to win us the game, and it was an exciting time to be playing cricket with a win down there for Otago in my first match.
And I mean, also, I guess for your own experience of that game coming to first-class cricket, you opened the batting in that fixture with Craig Cumming, who obviously is Otago's leading first-class run scorer. What was that experience like coming into first-class cricket in general? Yeah,
it was really special. I think whenever you play your first game of first-class cricket, it's always a little bit nerve-wracking. I was probably lucky because I played a one-day campaign before that, so sort of felt like I got to know the players a little bit more and things like that. But there's definitely something special about pulling on that baggy hat and walking out in the creams for the first time.
Fantastic. And do you remember who presented you your Otago cap?
I think it was Mike Hesson, the coach at the time for Otago, yeah.
Nice. And we'll fast forward now a couple of years to the Basin Reserve in late 2017 to making your first-class debut for Wellington, receiving your black baggie this time, other than the navy of Otago. Can you remember who presented your Wellington cap?
Yeah, that was Hamish Bennett. Yeah.
I imagine some pretty stirring words before that.
Yeah, he said he played a reasonably big part in getting me up to Wellington for a start. So I think he was almost looking for a finder's fee at the Head Award. So yeah,
at the sort of HR recruitment finder's fee.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I see, and that probably sounds like you might know the answer to this question as well. So can you remember a couple of other guys debuted for Wellington that day? One of them also made their first-class debut. Can you remember the other guys who joined you in that honour on that occasion?
Yeah. It was Ollie Newton. He also got 3 wickets in his first over, which was pretty special for a first-time captain as well. I was to have a guy take 3 wickets in his first over, and then Logan Van Beek as well.
Bingo. And there was also a guy making his debut across the other side for Auckland. Can you remember who was pulling on their Auckland cap for the first time in that fixture? He'd previously represented Wellington and Canterbury, if that's a helpful clue.
No.
A bustling bowler.
Oh, wasn't Matt McEwen, was it?
You're spot on. Yeah, Matt McEwen also
right.
debuted in that game as well. And I was looking at the scorecard. There was a lot going on in this game. It was also Jeet Patel's 250th first-class game, and Luke Woodcock's record number of appearances for Wellington. And then Michael Papps made 300 just to top it off.
Yeah, it was a crazy day. We won the toss and bowled on a pretty green wicket, and then we managed to. I think Auckland were 12 for 7 at one stage, and they managed to get 63. And then at the end of day one, I remember sitting in my chair and thinking, "Oh, this captaincy of first class cricket was not too hard." I think we were 220 for none at the end of the first day, and I was thinking, "Well, that to start a day couldn't have gone much better." So yeah, I was pretty happy to be in Wellington at that point. That's for sure.
I can imagine. Yeah, you're bang on. I've just got the scorecard up actually, and they were at one point at the wicket of Ben Horn, 12 for 7. But Karen Nathula down the order, top scoring with 23, and Raja Sandhu as well with a very useful 11, managing to get Auckland through to 62 in that first innings. So yeah, it was all off.
Yes, it was just one of those days. I think that every sort of half chance we had to hand, and yeah, one of those days that you sort of dream of to start a season on.
Certainly, and just I've kept you long enough. Just to kind of wrap things up, Michael, just a couple of quick fire ones, hopefully. Firstly, in New Zealand, your favourite first class venue to play cricket at?
Queenstown Event Centre.
Queenstown Event Centre, lovely. And then the next one being toughest bowler you've ever faced in first class cricket.
Probably Jeet Patel. I think that's half the reason I moved to Wellington, is I didn't have to face him.
Fair enough. If you can't beat him, join him, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
And the last one before I let you go, the player it could be a teammate or it could be an opponent you've faced around the place, or even for New Zealand Day, who's the player you've most enjoyed watching?
I think that'd have to be Ben Sears. Just the energy that he bowls with. He bowls 145 Ks, and he really sparks the team when you play with him. So I certainly enjoy captaining him. That's for sure.
So now, should we put? I definitely think he sounds like one. I've heard, you watch him on pitch. You've never seen him live, but watching him on scorecards and things like that, he certainly looks like he's one to put in the one to watch category.
Yeah, definitely is. Yeah, he's a guy that he just absolutely loves bowling fast. He's mad about it. So yeah, it's always good to have those guys in your team. That's for sure.
Fantastic, Michael Bracewell. Thank you very much for your time.
No worries. Thank you.
To Northern Districts we go now, to Tauranga, and we are lucky enough to be joined by Northern Districts captain Joe Carter. Joe, good morning.
Morning.
You've been busy at training in the last couple of weeks. How's the prep for the season been going? It's been a bit different this year.
Yeah, no, it's been good actually. We've sort of had access to some pretty good facilities over in Hamilton at St. Paul's and in the Mount under the marquee a little bit. So no, it's felt like a long pre-season, but we've been able to get some good work done. So we're happy with how we're tracking so far.
Good to hear. And you mentioned it's felt like a long pre-season. Has it been a bit different as well in that you've had, an early finish to last season, and then you've had a lot of guys who would have been around for the entire winter, which would have been unusual, and also a lot of your BLACKCAPS contracted players around the squad for winter as well.
Yep. No, I think we've actually got a lot of positives out of that. Obviously, a very sort of uncertain time and a strange time, but like you say, it has been good to have those guys all together as a group training. And I think we all sort of feel that's when you get the most benefit out of, I guess, a lot of the experienced guys that are around as well in that training environment. So it's been great to get some of those trainings done together. And I guess young guys get a lot of learnings off some of the experience that has been around because of the situation. So yeah,
good to make the most of a unique situation, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, it's been a strange time, but I guess that is just a positive to come from it, and to have guys,
all the BLACKCAPS around, even in the gym and in the indoor centres, and now leading into pre-season. It's just been awesome for a lot of our guys and the young guys, just to see how they go about their business, and for them to actually impart a lot of knowledge on us to hopefully use moving forward.
And you mentioned obviously the chance to spend some time again with each other, and I mean, let alone just whether it's in the indoor centre or the gym, or at an actual training session and out on the grass. Is it also been good to? I understand you've had a good chance to actually get some decent preseason in terms of team bonding. I think Henry Cooper told Willie on another cast previewing the domestic season about a good rural trip away. Guys went out back in the country and had some good time as well, just to kind of get around each other.
Yeah. No, we had a good little trip out to BJ Watling's in-laws farm out in Teapoy. So we just got together and did a bit of clay target shooting, and sort of, I guess it's just one of those team bonding things where you just go and relax and try and start the preseason off well. So no, I think that sort of stuff helps leading into a busy schedule. So no, it was a good start to the preseason.
Nice. And just specifically looking at the season now, Joe, in the first couple of rounds, you've got sort of a challenging start. You've got your other districts rivals and central districts who have got they've got everyone fit and ready. They've got a pretty strong team, but you are starting at home. You've got a couple of home games to start these first 4 rounds of the Plunket Shield, one in Hamilton and one at the Mount. How are you feeling looking at the schedule ahead in those first 4 kind of Plunket Shield fixtures?
It's obviously good to start at home in Seddon and the Bay Oval. We know the conditions fairly well, and we've got some experience ourselves within the group that I guess will hopefully help us start off the season well. But again, sort of like you said, that there is a lot of strength around the sides at the moment, and I think it's just going to be good for the game, really, and good for everyone involved, because it'll produce some good cricket, and hopefully we get off to a good start.
And in terms of producing good cricket, you mentioned you had a couple of younger guys, but there's also some an older name, or he's not an older guy, he's an older name. He's been around a while on the list this year, and Jeet Raval, who's joined the Northern District squad. You've got a younger guy in Katani Clark, who played quite a bit of Ford Trophy cricket last season for you guys. How's the squad sort of been coming together? How are you feeling about the guys you've got around you this year? Has it been good to have a few different players in the mix as you get ready for the season?
Yep, no, it's been really good to have that mix. Obviously, Jeet brings a lot of experience, and he's fit in really nicely, actually. He's a good man and obviously a really good player. So we're looking forward to getting more out of him. And for him to share some of that experience with a lot of guys. I guess that sort of range goes to then some of the newer guys, Katani Clark, who is obviously exciting and started really well last season. So I think the mix that we've had, we've got guys like myself and Henry Cooper and Joe Walker. We're sort of, I guess, getting into our career now, late 20s. So we've got a good spread, and we feel that will, I guess, help us move forward.
And in terms of helping you in your role as captain, and also helping with that development and guidance of the squad, you've also got a new head coach this season, an ND stalwart and Graham Aldridge. How's it been going, having him on board, and what's he been like in the role of head coach?
He's been awesome, really. It sort of hasn't seemed like much of a change, really, because he's been around for so long, but he knows sort of ND in and out, and he's got some great relationships already with the guys obviously around, so that helps him, I guess, do his job a lot more effectively. But he's a very relaxed guy, and very much suits the way we like to go about things. So it's really exciting, and I think again everyone's just ready to go now. It's been a long preseason, and yeah, we're looking forward to just getting stuck in.
In terms of getting stuck in, are you in your own game yourself? You've had a pretty amazing finish to last season with twin tons in a game against Auckland in this pretty special fixture, which also featured Mark Chapman doing the same for the Aces. A bit frustrating for you guys in terms of the result, but in terms of your own game, you had a pretty good season last year. Coming into the season, how are you feeling?
Yeah, no, it's feeling good. Again, sort of trying to take the positives from a longer winter in pre-season where you can actually get a lot of work done indoors and obviously again on grass recently. So no, I'm just looking to enjoy my cricket and go out there and express myself really. So yeah, hopefully I can put some of that work that I've done over this winter forward and help the team out this season.
Certainly, and just in terms of looking at first class cricket for you, Joe, and your memories of it, and coming into that format of the game, it's a bit of a quiz, but also just a bit of a test of the memory. Can you remember when you debuted and who it was against in first class cricket for Northern Districts?
I know it was against Auckland at Seddon Park. I think was it the 2013?
Yep, that's 2-6. Yep, bingo. You've got it. It was the very end of October in 2013, and you're right. It was in Hamilton against Auckland. Can you remember much else about what happened in that game?
Yeah, I don't have the greatest memory, but I think I was probably a bit daunted to come in and play with some of the guys that were playing. I think was Dan Vittori. He was involved.
He was, yeah. That's one of the things that caught my eye. I mean, your now coach was in there at number 10, and then there was a guy batting just in a couple of slots behind you at number 6 called Dan Vittori, which must have been pretty remarkable to come in as a youngster and be sharing a change room with an all-time legend of New Zealand cricket.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, looking back, I guess you don't really think about it too much at the time, but those are pretty cool experiences that you do look back on and try and take forward with you. So, some good memories.
Nice, and just it's actually the other thing that caught my eye is so you made 48 in your first bat in first class cricket, which is a bloody good effort. I was talking to Hamish Rutherford yesterday about his first bat in first class cricket, and he faced one ball and was bowled by Trent Boult. So he had some not so good memories of that first game. But I was going to say you actually were dismissed by now teammate Colin de Gronholm, and the person that took the catch was Jeet Raval. So you're now playing alongside them. So it's funny how these things work.
Yep, no, it is. No, I actually forgot about that, but no, that. I'm sure they'll remind me at some point as we get to know each other a bit better.
Indeed. And just in terms of two other little quiz questions from that game, do you remember who made their ND debut alongside you, and who was making their debut that day for Auckland?
I think Scott Kugelheim. He made his debut. Came up from Wellington.
He was still not for ND that day. The guy he's actually still playing, not playing cricket, but he's playing another sport. Does that give you yes, bingo. Yeah. John Hickey made his ND first class debut that day, and then a left arm swing bowler for Auckland made their debut that day.
A left arm swing bowler. Yeah. This just shows how bad my memory is.
He's part of the famous Howard Pakalanga group of Auckland players.
Yeah. You'll have to keep going.
All-rounder. Plays a lot of white ball cricket these days.
Oh, shoot. Left arm.
Container.
Oh, Grobler, is it?
Yeah. Donovan Grobler made his debut that day.
Yeah.
So
sorry about missing that one.
That's all right. As you say, it would have been there would have been a lot going on in your first class debut, so it's fair enough.
Yeah. No, it was a long time ago, I think.
It was, 2013 is a while back now. We'll keep going though on the first class cricket theme. In terms of just what it means to you as a format, obviously you get to play all three formats. It's a busy season, like you alluded to. What does the first class format of the game, the Plunket Shield, mean to you personally, Joe?
Yeah, I think it probably means the most out of them all, to be honest. I think it's obviously a lot of guys say it is the biggest test because it's obviously played over more days and changing conditions, and it's the biggest test of, I guess, your skills over a longer period of time. So yeah, when everything comes together collectively and you get a good result out of that, I think that's the most rewarding, I guess, form and feeling. So yeah, it definitely means a lot, and yeah, no, it is a great feeling when things do come together and you have those good times in 4-day cricket.
Certainly, and is that a key focus for ND this year? Obviously, you've had the likes of yourself, the likes of Henry Cooper, and in terms of going well with the bat the last couple of seasons. You had a couple of seasons back, Ish Sodhi was the top wicket taker in the comp, but in terms of ND team performances, just getting consistent round to round, the guys delivering to get those results.
Yeah. No, we sort of understand that. Again, you've got to have collective performances and not just individual performances. So we're just looking to be better on that front and better all round, really. And the way we've been tracking and some of the sort of, I guess, chats we've had over pre-season have highlighted that sort of thing. So we're looking forward to bringing, I guess, a big group effort into this season.
Brilliant. And just 3 quick fire ones to finish, Joe, before I let you go. First one is favourite first-class ground that you played at?
I think probably the home ground, the Bay Oval.
Nice. It gets better every winter, I swear. And in terms of the toughest bowler you've faced on the first-class scene?
I was thinking about this one. Definitely Ish Sodhi in the nets is pretty tough.
Yeah.
I've done that. I've faced them quite a lot and still haven't quite worked it out.
Yeah.
Oh, there's been a lot of good bowlers, I guess, that I've faced. I think Mark Gillespie, when he's sort of firing, was a really tough guy to face. So he'd probably be another one.
Yeah, I see. Well, that was interesting you say one of your teammates, Michael Bracewell, actually said one of his key motivations from moving from Otago to Wellington was not having to face Jeden Patel. So I thought that was a good answer. And just the last one, Joe, before I let you go, the player that it could be a teammate, could be an opponent, player you most enjoy just watching from a cricket perspective.
Yeah, I guess probably another teammate. I think watching BJ Watling's, it's pretty nice watch, really. He's just the way he goes about his business and his energy at the crease is, I enjoy watching, especially when he's doing it for us. So
fair enough. It's a good note to end on. Joe Carter, thanks very much for joining us.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, it's to the outer oval at Eden Park we go, and we are lucky enough to be joined in the midst of a squad game from Auckland Aces Plunket Shield skipper Robbie O'Donnell. Robbie, how are you?
Good, thanks, Benjamin. How are you, mate?
I'm not so bad at all. Good to be chatting to you as always. It's going to be looking ahead now at the Plunket Shield. You're in the thick of pre-season training. In fact, joining me from the sheds at Eden Park. So right in cricket mode. Can you tell me how the Aces pre-season's been going?
Yeah, you're bang on. It's been great so far, mate. We've been obviously amongst the chaos around sort of the globe at the moment. We've been extremely lucky to basically be outdoors training since our start of our contract, September 1st. So boys have hit the ground running. Everyone's really eager to get back into things. We've got a few new contracted boys around this year, so a few youngsters which are really eager to go and prove themselves, which has been really, really awesome in these inter-squad games to see all the new talent coming around and keeping everyone trying to improve, which has just been really outstanding for the start of the summer.
It's good to hear. And you've mentioned that you've had, obviously, there's been the uncertainties of COVID. You, all domestic cricket around New Zealand was sort of put on hold at the end of last season. A lot of uncertainty about what might be able to happen when things might start up again. And I know one of the things that talking to a couple of the other captains, Cole, for example, in Canterbury, mentioned that a lot of the feeling around his group was that it was just people feeling lucky that cricket was even taking place this summer. Is that something that the Aces have felt as well? You've sort of noticed around people's attitude towards this season?
Yeah, 100%, mate. I mean, we very often sort of stop and look at how lucky we are to do something that we love, and all the guys, sit back and reflect, and that's why we've got such a positive outlook in this team and this squad. It's just we every day hang out with a group of our mates, not necessarily just colleagues, and get to do what we love, trying to obviously prove ourselves out there and strive to be black caps. So, no, we're really looking forward to it, and we know how lucky we are that we're outside at the moment, but we know that things might change throughout the year. So it's just to take things on the chin and take it one day at a time.
Certainly one day at a time. And in terms of that, it's been a different winter for a lot of the guys in preparing for the season. You've had, for example, players not going away as they usually might into overseas and to play cricket elsewhere. Has that meant that a bit of a different preparation, having just more players about the place as well?
Yeah, definitely looked that way. Throughout the winter, a few more people in and around Eden Park to try and get the pre-season loading in. However, it's probably been a blessing in disguise, because we've almost had that extra month of pre-season training around getting to know each other and getting to know each other's skills and attributes, and trying to obviously get the best out of each other in the next few months before we hit the ground running in the next week and a half into the Plunket Shield.
And just looking at that, you've perfect segue there for me into the Plunket Shield. First round, you're at home at Eden Park Outer Oval, and you've got Otago coming up for your first game as skipper this year. And as you look at the squad, what's sort of exciting you about getting into cricket, and who are some players we should be watching out for in these first 4 rounds of the Shield?
Yeah, it's definitely looking. We're looking forward to being at home for the first couple fixtures actually, but. Yeah, Otago coming up would be a really good fixture out here. We've had a few really tight games up at Eden Park with them, getting down to a 9-wicket draw at the end of last season. So hopefully we're trying to get that one up over them. Some guys that you need to be looking out for, obviously, our BLACKCAPS who are back in town. The likes of Martin Guptill, Kyle Jamieson, and then also the likes of Mark Chapman, Gleam Phillips. These guys are obviously, well renowned around the first class circuit, and they'll certainly be wanting to put their best foot forward in the first few rounds.
Certainly, is that something a real focus for you guys? As obviously it's a tough competition. Auckland last won it back in 15-16. You were part of that side as well, and you know that. I mean, it was a fantastic season for you personally, but it was a season where a lot of different players stood up. You had Jet Raval scoring 1,000 first-class runs in that season. Different bowlers standing up throughout the season. I think Taryn took a lot of wickets. So did Michael Bates. It took a lot of team performances to win that Shield. Is that something you've talked about heading into this season?
Yeah, it has been. It's probably the one that's eluded us for the longest amount of time, and it's one that guys certainly feel is the most important competition to celebrate success. And so, yeah, look, we know that it's a lot of hard yards need to be put in. There's certainly a lot of days of cricket, and it's just trying to be on the right side of the ledger. And it's just going to take all the boys to do their role specifically as well as they can, day in, day out. And as a unit, if we can get around each other and really put ourselves in the best position to be doing that, I don't see why this season's not the first to get us back in the winner's circles.
Certainly, and you mentioned that sort of key determination, and that it's been one that you has sort of eluded you so far. Just in terms of first-class cricket for you, Robbie, and what it means to you, I've sort of asked each of the captains the same question. Where does the Plunket Shield sit for you, and what does playing first-class cricket for Auckland mean to you personally?
Yeah, I think it's right at the top. It's pretty clear. It's definitely the hardest format to succeed in over a long period of time. It's definitely a good segue into if you can perform at this level, at the top level for a number of years into Test cricket, and it just obviously just goes up a notch itself. But yeah, playing first-class cricket for Auckland was actually a childhood dream for me, with the old boy taking a lot of coaching up here and throughout the years. So being involved in cricket right through probably since I was about 5 years old. So captaining Auckland was actually probably my biggest bucket list goal growing up. So now that we're here, obviously there's more things on the list, but it's always nice to take a step back and enjoy where we're at and the group that's around me right now.
Certainly, and obviously one of the new players on the list is your younger brother as well, and having him come into that mix as well must be exciting for your family as well.
Yeah, very much so, actually. Here he is right here. Yeah, no, he's been working extremely hard, and he's been putting up some numbers overseas and in A cricket for the last 2 to 3 years. So he's really rearing to go this year. And yeah, it's nice to have sort of mum and dad and know we're training together and staying out of trouble for most of the time. And hopefully we'll get some game time out there together and put some partnerships up on the board and win some trophies.
Nice. And just in terms of the last one on your own career so far in first class cricket, the other question I've asked everyone is what they remember from your first class debut. Can you remember the game and where you were when you made that first step over the rope in your baggy blue? Yeah,
very, very clearly. Yeah, we were out here at the Seddon Park Outer Oval. It was against CD, I think in 2014 potentially.
Yep, bang on. Yep, very end of 2014.
Yeah, that's right. Batted in the top order, facing the likes of your Doug Bracewells, Ben Wheeler's. It was pretty much an entire New Zealand A black cap bowling attack, and batted at number 3 or 4 and managed to get 3 or 4 runs off about 60 balls. And unfortunately didn't really capitalise on that. So yeah, it was a bit of a awakener to how hard you sort of have to work and the patience you have to continue to work at your game and grow to obviously try and perform and win more fixtures. But no, it's still very clear, and the baggy blues trying its best to fade away now. And it's definitely something that I'll keep on for a long time to come.
Certainly, yeah, that's interesting. What sort of how these sort of different things work, and the players that you kind of come in alongside. I was talking to Joe Carter this morning, and for example, his first innings in first class cricket, he was actually dismissed by Colin de Grandhomme, Courtjeet Raval, which of course two of his teammates now. So it's amazing how things change over time.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
In terms of first class cricket, my last sort of couple of quick fire ones before I let you go, Robbie, is the first one being, which is your first favourite first class ground that you've played cricket on?
I'm going to have to say the Basin Reserve. It's obviously got its roots in history, but great lunches and really, really, really good batting, fair, true cricket wicket, big ground, awesome training facilities. It's just an awesome place to be in Wellington, especially for the first class fixture.
Nice. And in terms of players that you've come up against, obviously you mentioned guys like Doug Bracewell in your first game, things like that, different challenges you faced, but who's been the toughest bowler you've faced in first class cricket? Could be someone in the nets at Auckland, could be an opponent. Yeah,
it's probably a split couple there. I feel Doug Bracewell did have my number. I was in his pocket for a fair few years there. Dougie will be up there, tremendously talented, knows exactly what he's trying to do with it, and he's done it for years. But the second one would probably have to be Lockheed Ferguson, who's, we've spent a lot of time up here together playing for Auckland, a lot of time in the nets, a lot of balls hitting parts of the body that,
you don't want to be hit.
Yeah, so yeah, he's just one of those guys who has the ability to make you really uncomfortable. And at that pace, he's shown it at the top level around the world.
Absolutely. And then just in terms of, it could be someone again that you've played alongside, or someone that you've just observed from the players' balcony or from the hut. Who's a player that you just love watching in a cricketing sense?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think just the way the game's going, it doesn't necessarily have to be the most traditional player anymore. Someone that's certainly doing it at the moment and out here as well is just Gleam Phillips. Every time that guy walks over that rope, you just, you got your pads on because you never know what's going to happen. But he just never ceases to amaze you with the shots that he can play and the way he hits the ball. It's certainly something to just keep your eye on.
I mean, I think, he's a pretty exciting player to watch. And I remember a squad game you guys were playing a few years ago. I think it was when he was very fresh in the team. And I can't remember, it might have been before you started to play some T20 cricket. And I think he might have hit Mitch for a couple of sixes in a row and over. And as you say, some of the things he can do are pretty phenomenal. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, last year he hit Matthew Bacon a switch hit pull shot over third man for 6 in the Ford Trophy, which is just, I've never seen that before. But hey,
very good. Well, Robbie, that's a great note to leave it on with your Auckland teammate. Thanks very much for joining me this morning. Really appreciate your time, Robbie O'Donnell. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Cheers.